Hi guys, I'm Joel Kleber here from the Gyms Group again. I'm with Michael, who's from Gyms Antennas in South Morang. So thanks for doing this, Michael.
No worries, mate.
All right. So what were you doing prior to gyms?
So prior to gyms, I was in the hospitality industry. I'm actually a chef by trade. So spent roughly about 18 years as a chef in that sort of time frame. Did various sort of setting up restaurants, running restaurants. I actually went off and did my Cert 4 in training and assessment. So did a little bit of hospitality training as well. And then finally landed in the gyms group.
It's a tough gig being a chef, the split shifts and the long hours and things like that. How obviously work ethic's not a problem for you.
Yeah, look, you have to have a really, really good work ethic. You need to be really highly organised and obviously highly motivated as well. The hours were proving to be very, very difficult towards the end. I have a young family and just wanted to spend more time with my family and just was really burnt out in the industry, looking for a change.
And how did you find out about Gyms Antennas? Were you looking at multiple things, or was this the one for you, or how did you come about?
No, I was never really looking at multiple things. I toyed with the idea probably about 4 years before I actually did something about it. I always had that interest in RFAV sort of thing. So originally looked at becoming an electrician. Going through and doing another apprenticeship, there wasn't really going to be an option. I didn't have 4 years to sit back and do anything like that. And at that time, it was probably around 2012. I came across Gyms Antennas and I had it it was kind of a pipe dream. I sort of said to myself, if I ever sort of grew up the courage to sort of dive into something or to make that career change, it was something that I really wanted to do. And I kept it to myself for a really, really long time.
And what made you finally just do the step? Was it just when the young family come along, or what happened, or the hours? Or
Look, young family and the hours. I was sick of working for other people. I wanted to be my own boss, and I looked at buying into a cafe and going down that avenue. And I spent about 3 months in a place that I was ready to buy, and in the end, it was kind of a means to an end, which I knew was wrong. So I sat my wife down and I said to her, look, I don't want to do this. And she was very, very supportive about it. She said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, you're going to laugh at me. I said, I actually want to buy a Gyms Antennas franchise. And she didn't laugh. She's actually a very, very fantastic woman. She was very supportive and said, okay, well, if it's something you're genuinely interested in, then, do due diligence, get out there, give them a call, do your research, and, we'll take it a step at a time.
And what research did you do? Did you speak to other franchisees, or what were you doing on your investigation?
So first point of call was I touched base with the franchise manager at the time, and he put me in touch with a couple of franchisees. And ironically, from that point, I had a really good chat to probably 3 franchisees. And then from there, went and met the franchise manager, went through a few bits and pieces with him, and he said, right, why don't you go out for a day with one of the guys? So I did, went out for the day with Troy Barton, and he's now become one of my best mates.
I know Troy, met Troy, been to his house to do some filming stuff. He's a nice guy.
Yeah. Yes, you have. Yeah. So went out for the day with Troy, and we were about halfway into the day and having a bit of a chat and everything. And he goes, oh, how do you like it? And I was sort of trying to keep it under wraps. I was like, yeah, mate, it's all right, We'll see how the day goes. And then we pulled back up at Troy's house at the end of the day, and he goes, so when do you start? And I said, oh, mate, look, got a bit to get through before we get there. And he's like, no, mate. He goes, you need to do this. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, I take a lot of people out. And he goes, mate, I know you'll kill it. He said, I know you'll just, be fantastic at this. He's like, you really need to do this. And it gave me that push, I think, to go, you know what, I think we can make this happen.
And what you said something before, which I found was quite interesting, was some people get to that stage where they want to do an apprenticeship maybe, but they can't afford to have 4 years of, let's say, mature age apprentice wages. It's just not something that's feasible. But the gyms franchise, you can it's almost a trade in a way, almost, where you probably got those skills eventually to do a lot of that similar stuff, but you can make that money a lot quicker and you don't have to go through that 4-year process. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, going from an industry, obviously like hospitality, and then into the field that we're in at the moment, like with antennas and security, I set myself goals, and I knew that straight off the bat, I wasn't going to be able to do everything that I wanted to be able to do. I knew I was going to be limited to, my antennas and my TV points, and then I was going to be able to grow on that as time went on and, do courses and everything. But it was more the fact of being able to hit the ground running, and just go out there and just start making money straight off the bat, and have enough tools in my belt or underneath my belt to be able to go out there and get the job done and call on the people around me to get that help.
And what's the training process like? Because it can be daunting that first couple of weeks. You're sort of day one, now you're in your own business. It'd be pretty daunting. Do you remember that? What was that first week or couple of weeks like?
Oh, mate, I'll never forget it. To tell you the truth, I actually quite often think about my training process, which was around about 6 weeks. And I went out with Troy for a little bit of the time, and I sort of, me and Troy always have a bit of a giggle because I was with one of the other franchisees, Brett, for the first couple of weeks, and it was over, December, January, and then went out with Troy for about 2 days, and he goes, what's Brett doing the next couple of days? And I went, I said, why? And he's like, weather's going to be really good, mate. He's like, I'm going to go out and jet ski for a couple of days. He's like, can you go off with Brett? I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I was like, is that what it's all about? And he goes, well, mate, I run my own business. I can do what I want. So yeah, look, it was, to go back to the original question. Yeah, absolutely. It was daunting. But the boys really made sure that they went through, almost everything. I mean, as much as you can, obviously. But the training, the boys were fantastic. They taught me enough to get me going and enough to get out there. And as soon as I ran into a problem, I rang Brett, I rang Troy, had the other guys to ring up as well. And they were there with the answers.
And how long have you been going for now, Michael, in your business?
So I started it was the February of 2017. So that would make us coming on 4 years in February.
Yeah, which is a good, because traditional statistics, most businesses fail after that 5-year mark, and obviously you're flying at 4 years, and it's just one of those things. It's just really great to hear how you're doing so well, and you've got a passion for it as well. You said you had a bit of a passion or interest in this sort of field, and you've been able to make it into a full-time career.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I'm at the stage where I quite often I come home and, so having a chat to the wife, how was the day and whatever might be. And I genuinely love what I do. Everybody has their bad days and everybody has their days where they come home, they're exhausted and whatever. But the versatility in the way I've grown my business at the moment is such a way that I'm not just doing antennas and TV points and data points. Obviously, I'm doing things like security, alarms, cameras, wireless access, internet-based stuff. So it's so different day to day that it just, I love what I do.
Because you have the dual franchise, don't you? So you have the antennas and you have a security one as well.
Yep, absolutely. So again, there's just so much versatility there that, if the antennas are a bit quiet, we're doing cameras, we're doing alarms, doing a bit of access control as well. So we've got next week, a couple of wall mounts first up in the week, and then got a really big camera and alarm job for sort of the second part of the week. So just, it keeps that versatility that keeps your brain ticking over, doing different things. And
what's your work level like normally? Are you flat out, or you got one person working with you? What's your business currently?
So currently I'm a sole trader, so I work on my own. I've got a couple of guys that I sort of sub out to when I need a hand. I've got an electrician that I do a little bit of work with as well. So it gets a little bit busy. He calls me, I call him. We work together for a day or two. Same thing. So obviously with Troy, very close with Troy. We help each other out same way. Need a hand, stuff like that. So yeah, look, the COVID thing slowed us down a little bit. We were really, really flat out right up until the lockdown. And, when I say it's quiet at the moment, I mean, quiet for us is still, we were talking about it the other day. Most people would be happy to be doing what we're doing when we're quiet. But yeah, it's ramping back up again, and the need is always going to be there.
Now let's list through your services, because obviously with gyms, you have a gyms and you have a name. And then we obviously know there's a lot more services in that division than just the name. So just maybe for education for people watching, what services can you provide as an antennas and security franchisee?
So obviously we provide antennas, TV points, data points, wireless access points, NBN relocations, CCTV, access control, intercoms, alarm systems, TV wall mounting, hang your picture frames for you if you like. done a couple of those, hung some mirrors and some picture frames.
You'll be fixing up a lot of home job hanging on the TV on the wall. Do you fix up a lot of those?
Look, fixed up a couple. It's mainly with the antennas you find the home jobs,
Okay.
like especially with the older. So I live in Reservoir, obviously my area is South Morang, and there sometimes can be a bit of a amongst the older community in Reservoir. They tend to sort of try and sort their own antennas out, and makeshift poles and all sorts of weird stuff. I had a guy a couple of weeks ago, and he was he was Maltese, and he had a pole on top of a pole and then some wires down to the fence, and his neighbour was really good about it, but he's like, oh mate, please take all that down. So yeah, needless to say, he's very, very happy when it was all sorted.
Absolutely. So what plans do you have for your business? Is something you just want to keep building upon doing what you're doing, or do you want to expand, or what do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
I'd like to expand it. I'm always looking at ways to grow. I'm always looking at sort of ways to build my business and to make it better. Eventually, I sort of, obviously prior to the COVID, so last year I started taking on a few commercial jobs, and we were heading in that direction. Things were going really, really well, possibly looking at putting on an employee. COVID hit, like I said, it sort of slowed things down a little bit, but as much as we want to build on it, I think we're at a bit of a stalemate at the moment. But we'll just keep pushing on and keep trying to learn new things and going into different areas.
Let's talk about the commercial side of it. So I think there's a couple of guys in your division who just do commercial only, or pretty much close to that, isn't it? So
yeah, look, there are a couple of guys. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's something where you can do. Is it a full fit out of a building, or can you go into a bit more about the commercial work that you can do?
Yeah, so commercial work obviously starts off with you get a set of plans. From there, doing your full fit out. So from your cabling right through to your fit off, your commissioning, your testing. It's what, obviously there's an outlay involved in something like that. So financially, you do have to outlay prior to commencing works there, and you do get paid in stages. So it is a little bit different to doing domestic work, where you'll go and do a job, and then obviously you get paid at the end of the day, or after a few hours you get paid. So there is a little bit more risk involved, but the reward is quite satisfying as well.
What are some customer trends you're seeing? As I talked to Sean this morning about, he was saying there's a lot more cameras obviously now because it's becoming down in price. So what are some customer trends that you're seeing in your work?
So yeah, absolutely. Look, our trends were in the home office, obviously. So once people started working from home around that sort of March, April timeframe, doing heaps of data points, doing heaps of wireless access, moving people's modems. So people were having that issue with their internet. And then as sort of the time's gone on through the year, this year, we're finding a lot of people ringing up and sort of going, well, we've been home for a while. Eventually we're going back to work. We wanted to wanted to do cameras and alarms and have our home security beefed up. So yeah, people have that disposable income, I think, at the moment, because they're not going out. So they're putting it into their homes. So getting a lot more camera and alarm jobs coming through.
I want to talk about your training, because you said some really good stuff at the start when you were saying you knew you were just going to do a couple of these, let's say 3 or 4 services, whatever it was, and then you eventually worked your way up. So how did you go about upskilling yourself along the way?
So I'm very much of the, like, I've always been taught that if you're going to do something, you do it properly, or you don't do it at all. So I like to master things, I guess, before I sort of go and take on a new challenge. So I did do that. I put myself out there and sort of said, all right, get the antenna things, learn how to do your cabling, learn how to do your TV points. And then from there, got my open cable registration, started learning things about data. So I put myself in a position where I'm near the guys that are doing that sort of work. So obviously we touched on Troy a bit earlier. Brett was a big influence as well, in that sense. And sort of, okay, guys, if you're doing this kind of job, can I tag along at my own cost and learn something and be taught something? And I sacrificed a lot of hours from my business, where I could have been doing other jobs, could have been getting paid to put an antenna up, but said, Troy's gone, mate, I'm doing data, heaps of data, whatever it is, come along and I'll show you. I'm doing a 20-foot mast, or a 30-foot mast, come along and I'll show you how to do one.
And
sorry, go.
No, sorry, you go, Michael, sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say, where you sort of, you sit there and you go, oh, you're crazy, you're working for someone else for free. Well, no, I'm learning. And you're sacrificing a bit of your time to learn.
Now, you've already touched on it a bit about the support. So do you maybe go into a bit more detail about the support, let's say from the franchisor? You've talked about Troy and Brett, who are fellow franchisees, and being so giving with their information. Maybe do you want to go into a bit more depth about the support from the franchisor side?
Yeah, so obviously Heidi and John and David, being our franchisors, Heidi being our franchise manager, is always available. I think probably she rings back within about 30 seconds of any time that I rang her. We all get along fantastically well. They're very, very approachable people. There's not really anything that you can't ask them. I've found their support to be fantastic, to be perfectly honest.
And you just already mentioned the fellow franchisee support, and I think a lot of people underestimate how important that is for franchisees, especially when you're starting out. Just being able to call on someone, whereas if you're independent or if you try to do this by yourself, who do you call? It's one of those things.
Oh, look, I've said many a times, if I hadn't have brought a franchise, if I had have gone out and started mix antennas or or something like that, it would have taken years and years and years to get off the ground. Whereas obviously buying into a franchise system, I think a lot of people don't realise that you are buying a business, but you're buying a network as well. And in that network of people, they're all doing like-minded jobs, so that when you do have an issue, or even if you're just having a bad day and you're going from one job to the next, you pick up the phone and you go, "Oh, hey, what are you doing? Oh, this happened, that happened." You get home, you can talk about it at home, but it's not amongst somebody that sort of understands your industry very much.
Absolutely. And a customer surprised to find out how much you guys do? Is it something when you get into the home and you meet them and then they start asking about other things and you can tell them all the other things you do? Or...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I've been, it sounds really, really silly. I had a customer a little while ago where I was wall mounting a TV outside, and the electrician had run the TV outlet, and the TV outlet didn't work. And I tested it with the signal meter and everything. I said, "Look," I said, "You've got an issue with your TV outlet." And she goes, "The electrician did it." She's like, "Who do I call?" And I sort of just looked around and I went, she goes, "Well, call the electrician back." And I sort of looked down at my t-shirt and I looked at her and she's like, "Oh," she's like, "You?" She's like, "Can you?" And I was like, "It says it like right there." And she's like, "Oh my God." So yeah, sometimes customers can, I guess, they're focused on what you're doing and the job that you're doing. And they do, unless you sort of, you give them a little reminder or, start having a chat. How's your Wi-Fi? How are your cameras? Or, have you ever thought about upgrading your alarm system or something like that? Unless you put it to them, they don't really know the ins and outs of what we do.
And when you started this, did you think you'd be where you are today with your journey in such a short amount of time?
It's a tough one, actually. Yes and no, to be really honest. Like I said, I know I'm a hard worker. I know I'm a fast learner as well. I had set myself some goals, especially in the first year, of where I wanted to get to and sort of some of the things that I wanted to do. Did I think I would get there so fast? Probably not. But then again, it's been like I look back and I go, well, nearly 4 years, it's flown.
Yeah.
But it's, again, it hasn't just, I haven't sat back and wait for it to come to me as well. And I think that for the people out there that are sort of thinking about buying a franchise or getting into the system, you have to be of a mindset that where the leads are really, really good and everything like that, you still need to be able to go out there and get it. You can't just sit back and wait for the phone to ring.
It's a great bit of advice, and I love hearing that because, if you have people who just sit back and do that, that's where the trouble happens, right? You've got to be, it's your business. You've got to be proactive in your business, doing the 10-point plans and all those sort of things they give you, because they do work. And obviously with your background, you followed it to a T, and now look where you are, very successful. I think it's 4 years.
Absolutely.
After 4 years, it's a great thing to hear. So I want to talk a bit more about TVs and stuff now. So just for my personal interest. So what's the sort of the system you reckon? Like, do you recommend to people like certain packages or for the home theater setups, or do they ask you, or they have something that they've already bought and you have to install it, or what normally happens there?
Yeah, look, most of the time customers have made their decision. So you'll generally go into a customer's house, they've already purchased a product, or they've rang you and they've said, "We've purchased, XYZ products, we need installed." Occasionally we'll get a customer go, if they do have an issue with a TV or need to upgrade a TV, they'll ask a recommendation. You can give customers advice. At the end of the day, they're going to be guided by their budget, by things obviously that they read on the internet. There's so much information out there that, the TV guy isn't necessarily always going to give them, the answer that they want to hear. But most of the time we do find that, customers have already made their decision. It's when you sort of start getting, I guess, back into the cameras and the alarms where people don't really know what they want.
Obviously you've got a good website as well. They can go and look, and there's various products on your website you have, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. There's obviously both on the antenna side and on the security side. The websites are really, really extensively detailed. The guys keep, again, going back to the franchisors, they keep on top of that. They make sure that all our pricing structures that are on there are on top of things, that all the new products that, services products we offer are updated on there. So they do an amazing job of being on top of that. And I think if we sort of flow back into what you were talking about before, into buying into a franchise system, and if I was doing something like that on my own, I'd have to sit on top of my website and I'd have to keep updating, where that's something that these guys take care of, and you don't even think twice about it.
Yeah, I think you can make, like, that's what I think of. People just think marketing's easy, We see it all the time, just do a few letterbox drops and away you go in your business, which is not the case. You have to do, obviously, this website, there's content updates, there's all this sort of stuff, there's social media, things like that. And whereas you guys are then allowed to go and just concentrate on doing the best job you can for a customer. You don't have to worry about all the back end stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. The most difficult thing I've got in terms of my business, obviously, I don't have an issue with working. I work hard, but, coming home and doing a little bit of book work and quotes and things like that is probably the most difficult part of running my business at the end of the day. And if you sort of put that in perspective, it's not that hard either. So, the guys take care of like you said, the guys take care of the marketing, the websites, obviously what we're doing now in terms of getting a brand awareness out there and being synonymous with that brand. It's all taken care of on the back end that you kind of, I guess, sometimes take for granted.
Now, you're a family man, so how's your lifestyle now compared to what you were doing previously?
It's funny because a lot of people sort of say, "Oh, it must be great. You run your own business, you make your own hours." Unfortunately, I'm a bit of a workaholic. I like to work, but having said that, when the need arises, I'm able to take a day off when I can. I did so many weekends and so many nights and things like that I don't work Saturdays and Sundays unless I really have to work, for a couple of hours on a Saturday. So I spend the weekend with my kids. I drop my kids off at school the days my wife works. She picks them up. We're home all together for dinner most nights. But yeah, it's amazing to be able to go, I guess, from the 60 plus hour weeks where you're working 4 and 5 nights and you're working Saturdays and Sundays, to having that flexibility of saying, you know what, if I don't want to work Tuesday morning because my son's got something on at school, I can go and do that. And
also you're doing it for yourself. This is your business now. It's not someone else's you're building.
Oh, absolutely. And I mentioned it earlier on where I had helped a couple of people in the hospitality industry sort of build their businesses up, and where that was a great experience and probably made me the person that I am today. I'm doing it for myself. So if I've got to do a few extra hours, so be it.
Absolutely. Now I just want to ask a couple of recommendations. So what's a good budget system for someone for TV and AV? And let's say if there was no budget, what would you be recommending?
Wow.
Tough question.
Gee, yeah, it is. It's a tough question.
There's a clip for services. Look, I want to see. Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, I think that you can't go wrong with a Yamaha system. So if you're going for something in a theatre room and you're sort of where Yamaha can kind of not really be low end, but more, so your mid range. I like Yamaha products. I think they're fantastic. I'm a Samsung man in TVs, so I really can't go past the Samsung TV. If you've got the money to spend, you're probably going to get into a Denon or a Yamo for your high-end equipment. So that's my preferences. I don't have a theatre room. I know a lot of the guys in the antenna division have theatre rooms.
I do. I've seen Troy's one. Yeah, Troy's got a nice one.
Yes, you have seen Troy's one, I believe. That's right. Yeah. He's got a lovely home, but no, I don't have a theatre room. But I'm actually working on my outdoor decking at the moment and putting a little system in outside, so a bit of music cast out there.
Oh, fantastic. So I was going to say then, so what can someone expect when they request a quote online and call the call center? What's the process, Michael? If you get the lead come through to you, what's the next step for the customer? What happens?
Yep. So I went through, I think it was very, very early on in the piece, rather than get my leads via text message, I actually get my calls transferred so that I can talk to customers directly. I found that I remember sort of very, very early on, I rang a gym skip bin, and I didn't obviously know how the system worked before I was in it. And, such and such will give you a call within the next 2 hours. And I hung up the phone and I thought, well, that's weird. Why can't I speak to him now? So I make it a point, obviously, to try and answer the phone unless I'm with a customer. I'll generally get as much information as I can off a person in terms of their needs, their wants, and even sometimes specifically a budget as well, and then make a time with them and just go out. And I think the best thing that you can give someone is your time at the end of the day. And I've found that, just to be honest and upfront, give people the time that they deserve. And, you know, if it comes down to it, yeah, they will. They'll come, they'll go with you. They'll go with your quote because you've made that time to understand exactly what their needs and wants are. And they know that at the end of the job, they're going to get what they wanted.
Absolutely. I was going to say as well, what's the best way for someone to request a quote from you? Is it 131546 or what's the web address?
So 131546 or www.jimsantennas.com.au. Or you can also try the security one as well. Yeah, jimsecurity.com.au.
Well, that's the thing I don't think a lot of people realize we do now is the security. I think you've got 8 franchisees or something, is there, with yourself?
Yeah, look, there's about 8, and constantly growing as well too. I think there's a couple in the mix there to get started within the next few months, and we're really trying to make our mark on the security sort of side of things as well too, and be competitive in that area.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be a really booming industry. As Sean Roberts was saying before, the other franchisee, the costs are coming down off those systems, so they're becoming there's a lot more inquiries and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do sort of find a lot of time that when customers inquire, they do sort of, they find that, oh, we're expecting it to be a bit more expensive than what it was, or, you know, we had a budget in mind of, 20, 30% more than what we've been quoted. So it's a very, very affordable thing at the moment.
Absolutely. Do you have any advice for anyone who's thinking or maybe in the same position as you? Because you took a while before you made the shift. So any advice for anyone?
Yeah. Look, do your research, make sure you're passionate about what you want to do. And at the end of the day, just remember you're buying a business, you're not buying a job. So if you're looking to buy a job, you won't succeed.
Great for that stuff there. So guys, if you do want to use Michael and the franchisees, make sure you head to jimsantennas.com.au 131546, and also security is coming up there as well. So make sure as well you hit up Michael and the guys for a free quote. Thanks for that, Michael. Appreciate your time.
Not a problem. Anytime. Take care.